next, I want you to know Victoria Lowe. I've never met Victoria, but I know you're not supposed to play favorites, but man, Victoria, you kind of own some like real estate in my heart. You should hear me talk about you. Just following you on your feed, I would say that you are sunshine in my pocket, honestly. And I am so happy to be connected with you, to be able to really showcase what you are doing in your community. I do believe that you are a future librarian. And so for Katie McNamara, who's behind the scenes with us today, really making magic happen, I know that makes Katie McNamara's heart explode. So Victoria, we're really looking forward to hearing and learning with you today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so excited to be here. I am in baby steps for this. And I have to say, when the pandemic started, I'm an ELA teacher, 20 plus years. When the pandemic started, I don't think I'd ever use Google Slides for anything other than to present my lesson. So it's like to go from there to this whole new world. And it's like learning with the kids and on this journey. I created because I wasn't sure how we were going to do it today. So I just created a Padlet, and I'm going to kind of walk through this. First, it was for me and the students, that digital citizenship. What are we doing online? And my kids were online, but I wasn't online. But they were online as consumers and not really responsible. And so it's just like, okay, so how do we turn that around? So first I had to go to get my learning and to go there. And so how it's changed is that now at the beginning of the year, we always start with, let's do our classroom norms and what do we expect and how do we treat each other? Now, part of that is how do we treat each other online? It's that transition, because now it's like the world is larger than just us in this classroom. And I think that's what I'm working towards and I'm trying to do. And some of the tools and some of the things that I've done to kind of open up my classroom door to my school, to my district, to now it's like to the state, to the national, to this global audience. And so I just put some resources here. Global digital skills. I found out about that. They have this huge thing on, first of all, teaching the basics, because a lot of kids, I know how to do that. I know how to make a slide deck. I know how to do this. They really don't. So this gives them you could create a class on this. And so within the class, first it was being responsible, learning about the digital footprint and teaching the basics, right? Because before I can have you out in the world, putting your voice out there, I need to understand that you know the basics. And so I like it because they have videos. And so it's like through these lessons, they have these like little 4 or 5 minute little video clips, and the kids have access to, so it guides them through the steps to the docs and the slides and the this and the that, and while teaching them digital skills. And in the lessons, so once you get your classroom set up through this digital skills, and this particular lesson was understanding a digital footprint, once they're in the classroom, they actually have access to all of the lessons. So there's some other lessons, is like Google Draw, we don't use a lot, but these are things that they can do to get their voice out there. These are things they could do to share their learning. And so that's something like that's that beginning. Those are those first baby steps that I did. And another good one that I used, because I needed them to understand that they were part of a larger community. They were part of this larger digital community, and we need to be responsible there. And I need to say that during the pandemic, they were a little bit nicer with each other. In this digital world, I guess we were all isolated, we were lonely, we were nicer. Being in person, some of the things that we struggled with before in my building, now we're having this huge issue on cyberbullying and all these other things that we didn't really see so much. And so now we're really diving deep into that. But it's become part of what I need to teach. And as an ELA teacher, I didn't understand that. before, because we were not in the, in my district, I'm in the Bronx, we were not using digital technologies at all, unless you were in the computer class. And so this is all new to us. And so it's like, how do I do this? And I'm, like I said, I'm on my baby steps, but the kids are learning. Now I'm incorporating this. And so now, as part of them learning to become part of a larger community, now we're going out. And so now part of my assessments, and I did this whole thing on Samir, so I've just been in learning mode, the framework and that transformation. And so we took our curriculum maps and we kind of looked at it. It's like, okay, so now I'm an ELA teacher. They have to write their argument writing. They have to do their information writing. They have, these are the things that are requirement as part of the ELA standards. But how do we transform this? How do we iterate this and make this so that they become part of this larger community? And so then we started bringing in tools, because I can honestly say, before I started on this journey, I didn't really see past the classroom, and I didn't allow the kids to see past the classroom, and I didn't open the doorway for them to see and be part of the larger community. But now that we're in this space, now my kids have this pathway to this larger community, and it's through learning to become digital citizens, learning that they're part of a larger community. And so now it's on me to bring in resources to help them to become part, to amplify their voices, to allow them, to give them access to online communities. And so one of the first things I did, and this is kind of where I met Lori the first time, Bunsey, and it's like where you create these things, and it was just like a different way. So they were still doing the writing, they were still doing ELA, but now they go through this. And so the Bunsey, we found out about the global right. So the kids were like, what is that? We want to do it too. And they learned, they heard the voices from other students, and it's like, we want to be part of that. And I learned that they had ideas about the larger community, because in schools, I'm not sure that they had the space to talk about the issues that were important to them, because it's like, I'm giving you this assignment, this is what you do, this is what you write about, but now it's open the door. So now the transition for me, and I see I have a few minutes, is where I'm at. So we're in our research phase. And so I'm putting it out there. We're doing research. And so I showed them. And so again, Google digital skills. They have some wonderful lessons on looking at your sources of information. And so I kind of left it like that. I didn't say we were going to do an essay. I didn't say we were going to do a report. And so then we talked about what was our theme, what was our big idea. We're going to do countries. We're going to do multicultural. Okay. From that, we've gone to, we have a large immigrant population. So now they're telling their stories. They're studying, giving information about their country of origin, or where the family is from. But now they're also interviewing family members. They're telling these stories. And just yesterday, they were telling me, we want to do a podcast. I'm like, oh, I've never done a podcast. So yesterday we were Googling together and finding out information. And I do have a resource to help them. So now they want to do this podcast, but it's only because I open up my mind to allowing them and moved out the way to give them the space to do this. And so now going back to some of these resources, like the Global Right is a wonderful one, and they have like these monthly writing things. So they got involved in that. The other thing is a resource, the KQED Learn. They have media challenges, and these are students from all over. My students, this is where they got the podcast idea, because they've been involved in the discussions where they have these discussions that the kids can join in on. And so it's like kids, so this is one school, 27 responses. So the kids kind of decide on the discussions they want to join in on, but it brought them to this, oh, we want to be part of the showcase too. We want to tell our stories. And so they get to submit. They get to submit about different themes and topics. on things that interest them. And so now bringing it back to that authentic task, that authentic assessment. So now it's just it's no longer for me about that piece of writing that goes into portfolio that no one really looks at, or on the bulletin board that no one really looks at. Now that they're part of this larger community. And to give them the space. Flipgrid. My kids really don't like Flipgrid for some reason. Like someone was saying earlier, they're a little resistant to those videos, but the podcasting, the audio, they're more into that, which I'm okay with. My hero, telling their stories, choosing those family members to dive in on, and the stories that come from there. One of the stories that came up through that was one of my students. She found out, she was doing, again, studying her culture. She came from, I believe it was Yemen. And she wanted to talk about the child brides. And she's like, yeah. And she was describing, and I forgot the person's name. I apologize. She was like this advocate, because we do a whole thing on advocacy. And she felt, and so then she was talking about this. I said, well, your mother lived, she moved from there. She's like, I said, well, ask your mother for some more information about this person and blah, blah, blah. Turns out that the family lived next to this person. And so now she could bring in this firsthand interview with this advocate. And so again, it's just like opening the door. And as I sit here and listen to all of you and all of these things, it's just like, I want to bring my kids from the Bronx part of that, because we've been kind of sheltered, and just opening the door. And even in the ELA classroom, because sometimes it's like, oh no, they have to learn. And I've heard this, they need to be reading and writing the books, and they have to do it like this, and they have to follow this thing. And it's like, we need to open it up. And so it's like, in my curriculum, because I do have to follow my curriculum, in my curriculum, where can I find those spaces to bring these in? And so I'm still following the curriculum. The kids are still following the curriculum, but now we've opened the door to other areas. And so I'm going to share this Padlet, but it's some resources that I've used. The New York Times, that writing activities for them. They have a summer thing that I encourage the kids to do. And some of the kids do it and they enjoy it. And then they come back to see me next year, and they tell me how they enjoyed it, and they share with me the stuff that they did, because I want to get them to a space where it doesn't have to be underneath me. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm giving you this over the summer. I've taught you the tools. It's a protected space, and for you to just go out there. And so it's not only that I'm doing it in the classroom, but I'm giving them the space to continue this later on. And one of the last things that I just got into, just found out about it, just had a couple of meetings. I've just been so inspired, like I'm inspired with you. First book, I don't know how many of you non-ELA teachers pay attention to First Book, but they're involved with this Time for Change. So it's like this change maker thing, and they have classroom activities and resources. So to build the change makers in our communities, and but a lot of resources there. And I just love it. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. And thank you for all the people that shared before me. And I've learned so much, and I can't wait to bring some of these things back to my classroom.
Oh, Victoria, and this is the first time I've had an opportunity to speak with you, but from just your feed, I could just tell you were sunshine. Like, literally, you want to capture it, put it in your pocket. So we're looking forward to that. This is just the beginning. I loved what you were talking about. The Global Right is a colleague of ours in Australia, Bronwyn Joyce. I know Lori just dropped her handle in there. But in October, we don't have to wait till next year to have our student showcase about civic readiness. In October, for the entire month, we're using the hashtag DIGCIT SDGs. So we're combining, digital citizenship and the global goals. And that's our new hashtag. We've done some work in Cameroon around that hashtag DIGCIT SDGs, but it will be, what we're envisioning is some social media takeovers. So from what it looks like, boots on the ground. What does DIGCIT and global goals look like in your community? So put a form in the chat, because we'd love to. October generally is Digital Citizenship Week, but we like to celebrate it the whole month. So thank you, Victoria.